Okay, so we're live. Great.
Just to reiterate, David is going to try and join in about 10 minutes. So if you could watch for him, June. Yes,
Good.
I will. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So obviously, we have Dan here to talk about the middle school once again, but we're going to try not to rehash everything we've talked about previously. He has added some slides to the presentation he shared last time, and I think it's really important now to really understand holistically the big picture of his plan. How it relates not only to the core academics, but how it relates to the practical and fine arts. We know the drivers of his plan around the teaming, around the longer periods, and now obviously there are trade-offs within the schedule in order to achieve those goals. And so, Dan, I think, quickly run through the slides that we've already gone through, but I really want you to get to the practical and fine arts and how there are changes there. And I know Melissa had some questions. I don't know if she'll be joining us listening in, but I can certainly, we can certainly catch her up at another time if she has questions.
Okay, so I'll present my screen. And when I do that, I can't see anybody else. So if there's questions, Ken, maybe you can just moderate the questions that
Sure.
people have. Okay, hopefully you will now be seeing my whole screen.
Yeah, it's not in presentation mode. It's in slide mode.
Let's see if this helps. Okay, cancel. Okay, now it should be in slide.
There you go.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay,
great.
So again, I just updated the date, and there's a few modifications to these slides. But I want to remind everybody, first of all, thank you for the opportunity to talk to you again about our middle school program, and our teaming model. I just wanted to remind everyone that what this proposal does is allows us to return to the pure teaming model. We really think that that's an important way of meeting the kids' social emotional needs, as well as their academic and developmental needs. Again, the pure teaming model is when you have a core team of interdisciplinary teachers who share the same group of students. And that would be English, math, science, and social studies. All of our classes will be 50 minutes, so that's the longer instructional time that Ken referenced. We have a workshop period that will replace quiet study with instructional time, while still allowing equity of access to our full program. One of the real enhancements, I think, we used to have a schedule 6-7 years ago that did not have any opportunity for students to not miss a PFA if they needed intervention, if they needed enrichment or SRBI support. So that workshop time is important to maintain that. Focus on the development of critical necessary skills for academic success. Again, a reminder that our SRBI interventions, those are the math interventions and the reading interventions, learning strategies for our special education IEP students, and Project Challenge, which is our Talented and Gifted program, will also be scheduled during that workshop time, so the students aren't missing a PFA or a class to take those interventions. The other real exciting enhancement for this model is the everyday world language in 6th grade, which brings us on par with most of our peer schools in Durgay. So this really is the same slide as before. It just kind of shows you what we're thinking about for topics and skills to work on during that workshop model. And again, students will have, they'll be with a different teacher each quarter. The workshop meets every other day for a quarter, and then they rotate to one of the other teachers on their team.
And on the alternate days, if you're meeting every other day, what happens on the alternate days?
So that's why this is important. In the second part of this presentation, we'll talk about the PFAs, because this workshop is put into the PFA rotation.
Got it.
They'll have one of the other PFAs.
And I think as we're doing this presentation, the second time around, I think it's important to really highlight what's different, what's changed with the current model. And one of the things that when you see that rotation between 4 academic workshop classes, we're moving from a trimester to a quarter system within the middle school. To allow for that to happen, and also for some of the changes in the PFAs. So a trimester to a quarter system.
So this is the same sample student schedule that I showed last time, but I want to go into more detail, like Ken said. But you'll see here that they're either going to have PE or health on one day during the period. They'll have either art or tech and engineering. Those are going to be semester classes. Music will be year long every other day, and then the workshop is the other one every other day. That's why we have A days and B days.
Right.
I don't think I need to go much. This is just an academic teacher schedule and what that would look like for their teaching. So this is where I'm really picking up with the new slides. And I wanted to start with this quote because I think it's important not only to talk about how we approach the academics, but also the PFAs in a middle school, that we want the curriculum to be exploratory. It's more of an approach that you want students to be asking questions, to be trying out new things. Middle school is not the time for specialization, really. It's about exposing students to a wide variety of content and opportunities for skill development. But often, especially in our PFAs, this curriculum has the potential for career value, or it leads to recreational and leisure time pursuits. When we think about music, we think about the different sports and activities that we do in our PE and health curriculum. When we talk about things that we do in art and tech and engineering, that these are opportunities for students to explore a variety of topics and skills that will help them develop into well-rounded and self-sufficient adults. So as Ken said, what is and what is in the proposed? So currently, 6th grade, 42-minute classes. 6th grade gets 1 trimester of art every other day, 1 trimester of technology education, which for 6th grade is coding every other day, and then 1 trimester of health every other day. So that's one of their PFA blocks, one of the 4. Then they have music every other day for the year, PE every other day for the year, and currently world language every other day for the year. The asterisk there, the asterisk there is to say in the proposed model, world language now meets every day. So so it's no longer a PFA in the proposed model.
Yeah, it's not. There's no loss here. There's actually a gain.
Okay. So 6th grade PFA proposed model. For 6th grade, they're going from a trimester of art every day to a semester of art. So it's actually a little bit of an increase in art. It's a little bit of an increase in technology education because they're going from a trimester to a semester every other day. Full year of music stays the same. If they're in band or orchestra, they'll still have a weekly pull-out lesson. And I was meeting with Liz Morris yesterday to talk about how that can be structured. It looks like we're going to have that for 50 minutes during the 50-minute lesson. So it might be more kids per lesson group, but that's what we're looking at. And then the workshop rotation for kids, it's all year, every other day, but it rotates by quarter. A change here is in PE, going from the full year every other day to 3/4 of PE every other day, and the remaining 4th quarter would be health. And that was a meeting I had today with our PE and health department. Obviously there's some concerns about the loss from their perspective of the year-long physical activity.
And oh no, it used to be 1 trimester of health. Now it's 1/4 of health. So that's a reduction too.
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And to put it in perspective,
I was going to ask, in the workshop rotations, are there any health-related workshops?
Well, the The workshops are based more on the academic content.
Good. That's fine.
But that's not to say that we put like sustainability into a lot of the science. We put activities like public presentation, debate, and stuff like that into those workshops.
And just to put in perspective in terms of instructional minutes, so for example, a quarter of health versus, in the new model of 50-minute periods versus the 42 minutes of a trimester, it's a very, in terms of curriculum, it's not a big difference because the instructional minutes have increased.
Great. That makes sense.
But the piece here is, I'm a child, I have PE, let's say first quarter, then I move to health, second quarter, then I have PE the rest of the year, much like high school. So it's as opposed to you have right now, you have PE every other day for the whole year. One of the quarters you don't. And so that is, we struggled with that, right? I mean, that was tough. That's a tough one for us with this proposal, but we're kind of putting all the pieces of the puzzle together. And that's where I think, Taffy, you're alluding to, is there opportunity in the workshop, either for, additional health or things like that within there.
So the other, again, I'm going to go to 7th and 8th grade because they're very similar. The major difference is 7th and 8th grade doesn't currently have world language in that PFA rotation. It's been an everyday class in 7th and 8th grade. So there's a bigger impact on art and technology education. So again, what's current in our PFA rotation is 1 trimester of health, 2 trimesters of art, and a full year of music, physical education, and technology education. The proposal, again, reminding with the increased 50-minute classes, it's a semester of art and a semester of technology education. And then the same change, music didn't change. It's every other day for the year, every other day workshop rotation. Again, 3/4 of physical education and 1/4 of health. So that really is the proposal in the greater detail. But I think I'll stop sharing and, or I can leave this up if we want to go back to slides.
Yeah.
Whatever you prefer.
What would you say is the greatest compromise you've had to make that's disappointing, but we're going to bite the bullet and go with it?
I think it probably is the loss of year-long PE. I think I struggle with that.
Yeah. Okay.
Is there a state mandated number of minutes we have to have in health and PE?
I'm going to defer to Ken for that.
So in health, there are certain topics that need to be covered where we're well over the amount of time needed for that. Like, for example, drug and alcohol education needs to be a part of the curriculum. So we're very good shape with health, with the quarter. And in PE, no, there's no number of minutes, but it needs to be part of the program.
So what about go ahead, Bernie.
Well, I was going to say, whichever one ends up in winter quarter, if that ends up being your health block, we might be in more danger of missing more days because of snow-related events or cancellations. Are we worried at all that whatever ends up in that winter quarter might get shortchanged?
No, because we'll make up those days and extend the quarter.
Okay.
So we have the same number of days.
I just lost my train of thought. Oh, just under the heading of under the heading of my dog. Hang on one second. Are those chickens I hear in the background? Welcome to the Zoom era. Under the heading of this has been one of the hardest years on these kids from a social emotional perspective. And I know, Ken, you softened the blow of shortening the health by saying that the minutes are different. And so we make up for that, which is fine. I wonder, is anything changing in this teaming model with respect to the time the kids have with their counselors?
In terms of opportunities to meet with their counselors?
Well,
So,
isn't there a regular, I thought there was a regular meeting date with counselors for the middle school kids.
well, they push in and deliver curriculum in the classes. They have a developmental guidance lesson every trimester with the students. Some students do get they do get counseling services as either part of their IEP, maybe even part of a 504 plan, or just they're participating in groups like lunch groups or just counseling groups. Sometimes
Right,
they're
group piece.
Yeah.
So I guess what I'm asking is where we've lost time in health, have we, because, health does cover a lot of this kind of these mitigating, situations where kids can really get themselves into not trouble, but pain. And helps, with that. I'm just wondering where we can make sure to, let's put it this way. I'm hearing the public and even my own heart saying, okay, in a year where there's so many problems and the kids need so much more support, we're taking health away. And does that take away that kind of support that we're looking for?
So I don't think it does. I think there's just as many opportunities for those counseling sessions and those group sessions, and maybe even more so because as we looked at the scheduling, we'll probably have during the PFAs, each PFA block. So if you remember, there's 2 periods per day and there's an A day and a B day. So there's 4 different blocks.
Yeah.
Those are different opportunities that counselors could pull students into groups. But I think even maybe a bigger impact and enhancement is the fact that with the peer teaming model, we are increasing that sense of belonging. Our goal is that sense of you belong on this team and we know you well. The 4 core teachers have those kids for longer blocks during the day, plus they have a smaller group each quarter on 2 different days. So those workshop groups are going to be about 10 to 12 students per workshop, which is really going to enhance the relationship building, the opportunities for conferencing with students. So I think you're going to have even a greater connection with more adults in the building.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. I think the teaming model allows for not just one relationship with your counselor, but rather 5 relationships now with teachers that you're going to have consistently through the year. I think that makes sense.
So in speaking with Patty Powers, the CIL for PE and health, in terms of delivering the health curriculum, very confident within this framework, the health curriculum will be delivered as we have been able to deliver it previously. We've had, I think with the increased minutes, but I hear you, Taffy, worried that any changes to health, we want to make sure those are addressed in any way. Her concern's more with, the loss of PE for a quarter. It's more of a high school model where we've got, 3/4 of PE and 1/4 of health.
Especially for the kids that just need that runaround time. They need it, in order to thrive. So how do we,
So that was exactly what I met with the teachers this morning, the PE health teachers, and that was their biggest concern. We do mitigate it slightly here in Weston because we still have 10 or 15 minutes of recess, as connected with our lunch. With many middle schools don't have that. So, it's a mitigation of the loss, but I get it. I hear what the teachers are saying, that they see this as a loss to the students.
There's another thing to also consider, just so I can add it. And before we went this route, I spoke at length to the athletic director, Mark Berkowitz. You might not know this, but Mark Berkowitz began his career as a PE health teacher at the middle school, working very closely with Matt Medvey. Then he came over to the high school to teach health. And, he did bring up a couple of points, and one that Dan said was about recess. And you said, well, they have to eat in that time too. And my experience, I'm sure as Ken and Dan's is that a lot of those boys, they'll eat as quick as they can because they want to get outside and play on that blacktop. They don't have that in most middle schools. On top of which, at the high school, when you look at the way that the PE is delivered and the semesterized and things like that, and then you say, well, 70% of the kids do athletic sports after school. There's a great many middle schoolers also that are involved in the sports programs with the town and everything else. Clearly, it's not all about sports, but the idea of being active and all of that is also, a community thing, and it's provided for by the different town organizations. So, to put it bluntly, something has to give within this program to get to the level of rigor and instruction and availability for the teachers to be able to give extra help during that workshop and all of that.
But we're in favor.
Counselors to be able to do groups. And so, it kind of is what it is. And by mitigating it, I think we'll be fine.
Well, and we do have, look, after a year, if we need to make an adjustment within the PFAs because it's not working, you can always go back and relook. Semester course can become a quarter course, so we can look at that. Just as Dan's looking this year, you can make minor tweaks. This is a big overhaul of his program, and a lot of real positives, and there are trade-offs. And this is, as you said, Taffy, this is what's the biggest trade-off? This is the biggest trade-off.
Yeah. How long has it been since we were in the full teaming model? I'm forgetting.
Probably since 2012, Dan?
Yeah, it was before my time. So yeah, I came in 2014, 2015.
So we've already partial teaming model, but not the full teaming model.
If you think of it as a continuum where we started with a full teaming model on one end, then slowly moving towards less of a teaming model, more towards a junior high. So we've kind of toggled, if we kept on the same path, we would have been very close to a junior high model next year if we didn't make a change like this, because it would have been very hard to schedule.
I think it's critical, not just for scheduling, but for the kids' continuity and for the relationship building. And there is a sense of team spirit being on these teams. And so I think it's great. I mean, I think we ought to keep our eye on the fact that two things related to health are being reduced: health and PE. Now, we also have, you're getting it from both sides. You also have great pressure to support these kids academically during this learning loss of the last couple of years. So that is a priority right now. We just can't trade one for the other. So we'll keep an eye on it.
Is there any chance of putting a PE based workshop rotation in that maybe the kids who are on the off time are eligible for?
That's an interesting concept, Bernie. I mean, we know John Medina's brain rules: exercise boosts brain power, and so that physical activity is helpful. Now, you don't agree?
I'm saying no because I know exactly what's going to happen, because we also lived this at the high school.
No, I'm not saying put PE. I'm not saying put PE in the workshop. I'm just saying there are times, that 5-10 minutes of run around, like at lunch, is helpful. And I think of when we do testing for kids, whether it's SBA or MAP, just getting 5 minutes of shaking it out helps getting some extra.
I think it's helpful. I didn't know if you meant putting it actually in as a
no, Lisa, no, I wouldn't speak for Dan anyway in that respect.
No, but was that Bernie's question? I'm sorry, I had to get up and go to the door.
Yeah, something like that. Was there a possibility to?
I would not recommend that, and I'll tell you exactly why. Because the work that has to be done in that academic workshop is too important. And if you gave those kids a choice, every kid would choose. I'm sorry, I'm on a call. Every kid would choose. All those boys would want to go to that, Bernie. We'd never get them back into doing anything else. That used to happen. We had an elective at the high school not to go on a bird walk, and it was specifically in PE, human performance, and all that. We would have fights with the kids because they'd want to take it, and they were the kids that you can't take it. You got to fulfill these other requirements. I think Ken's point, and Dan, feel free to jump in, is when you do different advisory things or things that whole group, it's something to interweave and keep in mind. But I would never offer that choice because they'd all choose it. I mean, they used to have that actually. Ken, did you remember that? Now I'm remembering. We used to have PE2 as one of the choices years ago when I was principal at the middle school. And it was, I don't want to do art, I want to do PE2. And it basically was classes of
Yeah, I remember that.
it was like out of control. All they wanted to do was PE2, which you get, but you want them also to do tech ed and other things. Yeah, that was something.
Can I add one thing to the conversation
Oh, hi, David.
about, hi, everybody, sorry, combination of overscheduled and not enough coffee. So, so the feedback I've gotten from my middle schooler, as far as, what Taffy was talking about with recess and, how recess could potentially double up for PE, is that at least currently, and maybe it's because of the pandemic, recess is much different today than it was 2 years ago. And the kids can't, and again, this is just feedback I've gotten, so interpret it, potentially not entirely accurate, but they're not allowed to do a lot of the activities that would involve balls or contact. So I don't, if that's accurate, kind of to Taffy's point, it's great that we still have recess in Weston. I think it's important, but it doesn't, at the moment, it doesn't seem like recess, other than having the ability for the kids to go out and get fresh air and run around, it's not the recess that maybe we recall.
Yeah, can I address that? That may have been true early in the pandemic last year, at the early part of last year, but for this entire year and even beginning last year, we reintroduced the balls, the frisbees. We have basketball going on. We have foursquare going on. We have the swings going on. We have kids with frisbees and footballs on the field. So there's quite a bit of physical activity and games taking place during recess with balls. Now, we don't allow tackle football. We want, but we do. Kids are tossing the football. They're playing sports, and I would say right now there's no difference in our recess than there was pre-pandemic. We do have some kids that prefer to keep their masks on at recess, but outdoors mask free. You don't have to keep your masks.
Okay, thanks. And how it is sometimes you get the negative report, and then you never get the updated, hey, this is what it's like today. So so from a recess perspective and PE, they still have a chance, the kids, to run around, interact, and really get their heart going and get some of the adrenaline out.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, thanks.
What you missed, David, is that in the new teaming model, PE will not be offered in one of the 4 quarters. So
yeah, I think I came in right when you guys were talking about that.
Yeah. Okay.
And it brought me back to middle school, because if I remember correctly, we at my middle school traded PE with, I don't want to say home economics, it wasn't that, but we had a similar type of situation where you would lose PE part of the year in order to make room for something else.
Yeah.
So I don't think that was 100 years ago, but I don't think it's unheard of.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Dan. Good luck.
Thank you, Dan. All right. So in the interest of helping to get our principals back to their buildings, I think if we could scramble the agenda and talk about the field trip to Disney, to Festival Disney, March 3rd through 7th, while we have Julie here. Last June, we were in a different situation than we are now, but we're still forging ahead. We know, Julie knows from her Durgay counterparts at the high school principals that, many schools have trips going out this winter and spring, and are just, looking at how they are managing it, but are still excited to, in some of these trips that in the air, in the Durg, are even overseas. But we're going to Florida. We know that's an area that has been a hot spot at times. March 3rd through 7th. We
Just for those who don't know about this, it is a band trip.
and orchestra and chorus, Taffy. Actually,
And
we
orchestra,
have
chorus, yep.
about 150 students going on this trip across our ensembles, and so it's a very popular trip. We've done it in the past, and so we're right now finalizing the chaperone list and getting ready to send out a communication to families to update them on some of the protocols that we have, which include we're expecting every student to have a negative test before they get on the plane. That is, I think that's critically important. We're highly encouraging all students to be vaccinated. In fact, our records show that most every student is vaccinated who is attending the trip. We do have a few who are not. And again, that's, we also want that negative test, whether it's, and I've talked to Cheryl Zakowski, whether that's a PCR test, which we know is harder to get right now, or a home test.
Was there any discussion of kids who are not vaccinated not going?
Well, we've talked about that, and all year long, we have not required vaccinations at any level, whether it's been sports or the governor hasn't required that, or for schools, but it's highly encouraged, and we're sticking with that. Although we are, we have a regular meeting each week with our health advisors, and we do talk about, and today is we're going to have one of those conversations. It's a typical Wednesday.
I think it's important to note that on a practical note, we've looked at the list. There are very few that are not vaccinated.
Right.
When you look at all the people with teams and everything else, I don't want anyone to think, oh my God, half of these kids aren't vaccinated. It's not true. And that's as far as I'll go, but we did look.
We will have a nurse attending the trip. We do not have, it won't be one of our nurses here on staff. We will be contracting with a nurse. We have someone who is gone on the trips as a nurse previously, who we're going to contract with. She knows our trip and our system, so we're excited about that. But we do know that there is the possibility that while we're on the trip, someone could become ill, whether it's a staff member or a student. And so, we work with the travel agent to, have a separate room so we can, quarantine that student, get the student tested. And if they're negative, get, back into the trip. But also just taking precautions, not exposing other students if someone does while they're on the trip, come down with symptoms and tests, positive.
Okay.
That's the real challenge, because then, parents, and we've done this in the past, would have to come get their child if they test, if they're positive, and then can't travel with us with the airline. We certainly would never leave a student till we hand it off to the parent. But once we do the handoff to the parent, our obligation would be complete there. But Julie, do you want to add anything in terms of?
I think one thing that we didn't mention is that there is a school administrator who will also be functioning as a chaperone on the trip. So, in the case of any situation, whether it's COVID related or not, we have always sort of had that position. Lisa and I have both been on this trip before. It is really helpful, I think, for the teachers who are planning the trip and also who are just chaperones to have that administrator there. If there is a situation that arises, there is a decision maker. There is someone who can kind of help lead the charge if there is anything that happens. So we are planning again to send a school administrator on this trip. And that makes me feel much more comfortable.
Great.
Well.
Do we know who that is at this point?
It's going to be Mr. Phillip.
Oh, good. Okay, great.
And it's important to note also that, like, if somebody is sick, let's say, and then people are going out and doing things, we don't leave sick kids behind alone. You know, I mean, it doesn't happen. So to
Right.
reassure that. Also, let's review the dates again, because I think I might swing down for the weekend and make a special appearance. Because full disclosure, last time we went, I did get sick one of the days and I missed the performance.
That's right. I forgot about that.
I might swing down too. I
I
mean,
know
like
it will be, yeah, it'll be fun. So
totally fun.
Yeah.
And I think the other thing, to mention here is obviously we're thinking about the case where a student may become ill, but also that, they will be following the mitigation strategies that we have been practicing here at school. So when they are indoors, they will be masked. They will be observing distancing. The great thing about Disney and of course about Florida is that much of the time during the trip, the kids are outdoors. So, they will be able to be unmasked. The performances are in an outdoor space, so they will be able to play without the burden of the masks and things. So it really educationally will continue to be the great experience that it has been in the past. And we also will still have those mitigation strategies in place.
When the performances are on the last day or the Sunday, aren't they? The 6th.
I believe they are on the 6th. Yes, I'm trying to find my schedule here.
Okay. I think I have a schedule too. I would offer to chaperone, but I have 2 children going on this trip.
Oh, okay.
Forbidden me.
Jay went last time with us, didn't she?
Oh yeah. No,
Yeah.
I didn't. No, Jenny
It
did.
was great.
Yeah, Jay went and she said it was the greatest trip out of Weston she's ever had in her life. And we've
Yeah.
been to Italy and she's like,
Yeah,
no, the Disney trip was the greatest thing ever.
And on a positive note, we need to make sure that Matt Phillip continues our 1-year tradition of every day you announce to the kids when they go off into the park,
Yes,
get a photo with Piglet or
Yes.
whatever. It's got to be a real photo, not a photo.
daily challenge.
Yes. And then whoever sends it first gets a free lunch when they come back. But it's a great thing for the Instagram. That was the best doing that.
Yeah. I have to say the trip, just as an aside, I mean, not only was it a thrill for them to perform in a real venue outside of school with, other performers were there, I guess. And also the workshop that they did on sound for musicals was really over the top. Jay said it was just, so amazing to play with these really proficient musicians and arrangers. They did these arrangements for musicals. I also want to say, and I'm sure this is not comfortable for some people, that one of the highlights I think of this trip is that kids do get a chance to be together and independent a lot of the time. So go on, have a great day, and you can stay up till 10, but you need to be in the hotel by 10. Like, they are challenged to be really independent. It terrifies me with Davis. He's just going to go climb a tree somewhere and not come out. But it's a great exercise.
It's a great point. And I would add not only to be independent, but to have to rely on one another.
Yes.
Right? To take care of one another, to make sure the people in your group are where they need to be when they need to be there. It is, talk about experiential learning.
Yes.
Right? You can't get more authentic than this.
And it reminds me of that.
Please keep an eye on Davis. Someone, please.
He'll be fine. Remember the portrait of a graduate. It's caring for yourself and others. And I can't emphasize that enough. When Julie and I were on these shows, like, okay, look next to you. Who's the person? You must take care of each other. The other thing, I don't want people to think it's all about dive bombing photos with Piglet. These are university professors that give these classes whenever we go. It was the same in New Orleans. They are top-notch professionals. And it's amazing. I mean, Julie and I were in the lessons to see what they do with our kids and to get the feedback of how great our kids are. It's wonderful. Oh, I've got to go. Send me the dates. I'm going down for the weekend.
I know, me too.
Well, let's hope
I think it's awesome.
Let's hope this wave subsides as we get to March 3rd through 7th. So, and that's, one of the predictions that it will, but we'll see. But interestingly enough, we have not had cancellations. I was surprised, but that's how powerful and how great a reputation this trip has, I think.
Do you have a call-it date? Do you have a date set?
Yeah, well, the last payment is by January 31st. So, I mean, most of the payment has been made. I mean, if we were to make any decision like that, it would be by then, but we're not. I mean, right now you see, we're forging ahead. And unless things, continue to, change in another direction, it gets even worse.
Yeah. Okay.
I think it's great. I think it's a great opportunity for the kids to have some level of normalcy for something that they clearly look forward to and learn so much from.
I agree.
So I think it's great.
Yep.
Yeah, and one of the other mitigation strategies, not to belabor it, is they had quad occupancy in their rooms, but others can't go into each other's rooms if you're not in that room group. That's the one thing. And at night they go in those rooms. You can't have 12 kids in a room hanging out there. In the hotel there are places masked. They can talk to the other kids, but for the most part they're going to be outside all day. But just to keep their rooms as a space that'll be just for those 4 kids.
Great. Okay.
Okay, so Julie and Dan, thank you so much. I think the next couple of items Lisa and I'll handle. So have a good rest of the day.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
And I thought, Lisa and I could share a little bit in relation to the instructional agenda for next year as it relates to professional learning, which will be, driving some of our key initiatives, and, our resources that we are going to need, for various subject areas, social studies, science, and world language, because we've got some subscriptions that have come due and we have some renewals. So I have a document I'll share, which I have, we just finalized this, and let me see if I can get the document. Let's see, is it this one? There we go. Okay. So what I'm sharing here is these are resources for textbooks up top that are embedded into the proposal for the budget. You can see we have, and this corresponds in the budget book, we have an $83,000 request for renewals for textbooks or related resources that have come due. That's, a pretty typical number, $83,000 each year. Our book budget remains relatively flat, but you'll notice that this is an increase this year because last year all of the book renewals were paid for with that current year's funding. So in essence, we had prepaid last year for the things we budgeted for in FY22 initially. Phil was able to find funds at the end of FY21 to pay for those. So that's why you'll see this 83,000 as an increase in that book line. But I more bring this to your attention because of the substance of the requests. We have at the high school Spanish levels 1 through 4 that have come due. We have some of those are different editions, so they're on a different schedule in terms of the renewal. That's a $7,300 request. We have 6-year licenses for grades 7 and 8th grade social studies curriculum they're about $17,000 each. But unfortunately, they're both coming due at the same time. But we do try to stagger these renewals. 6th grade's on a different year schedule for renewal. So we have 7th and 8th grade. Math, Algebra 2, that's a key one. In kindergarten, in a future curriculum committee meeting, you're going to hear about the pilot that we're doing in kindergarten for the math program. The resources associated with that They currently they don't have a 6-year subscription like many of the other methodology I'm talking about. It's a 1-year subscription that is annual. Math in Focus, by comparison, has a 6-year, which essentially is $40,000 subscription every time that comes due every 6 years. But in kindergarten, it looks like this is where the recommendation is going to be heading. You're going to get a presentation related to that either in February or March. That pilot is going really well. We think it's a robust program and will be an enhancement in kindergarten. So we've embedded that into the requests, as well as the.
Can I stop you for 1 second? Did you say at the beginning that this all is already in our budget request that we've looked at? This is the
Yes,
detail.
and I thought it was important.
Okay.
It's not readily apparent. That's why I think it's just important for you to
Okay.
see
Okay.
what are the items and know that it's there. And
Right. So that when we're doing negotiations and trying to, bring some numbers down, let's understand the critical nature of these. I mean, some of these, I'll let you continue, but some of these are, we're obviously not going to stop our Spanish textbook, they're not debatable.
Of course not. Right. I mean, these are essential resources. And, I'm just explaining that, you'll see this 83,000 as an increase in the budget because we prepaid for our books last year with existing funding to lower last year's budget. Now, I don't know if there'll be that opportunity down the road. Phil will look and see. But right now, this is embedded. They're essential, and including for science, which we can't believe it's been 3 years now since we've had that. The program embedded at the middle school using a lot of simulations that the Amplify and Gizmos resources provide as part of that curriculum. So,
Can you do me a favor? Let's put it in the folder of the documents that we're going to give the board as response to some of their questions, because I think this information could also help around some of the clarity with the grant funding, so everybody can get it, if we can just save it in there.
Sure. And we are not using at the moment any grant funding for these textbook renewals. But for
exactly. But the other part,
the consulting services below, we are, and I tried to lay that out for you here as clearly as possible. And I'll just move on now to the professional learning, which really gets to how are we supporting staff in achieving the instructional agenda for next year. And a lot of it is continuation of our literacy and math work into next year. We know sustaining those initiatives is critically important, as well as the social emotional piece. There's a significant investment in supporting our staff, especially our teams of related service providers, school psychs, social workers, counselors, with their work with kids. So, you can see here we've intertwined what we call our learning walks and our math training. Learning walks are when we have a group of educators, administrators, teachers, and SILs going to, and we just did this in early December, and are continuing to go into classes, although we did have a slight pause with the past couple of weeks with this increase with COVID. But we get into classrooms, we're talking about the learning. What are the high leverage strategies we're seeing that accelerate learning with kids? And teachers are learning from each other. We're all using this as sort of a way for the system to grow in terms of our math practice. So that learning walk training, we do have a consultant that we worked with in December. We would use that consultant again. It helps us in terms of the protocols, in terms of guiding our conversations. So we would bring that person back. And that funding for the learning walks and the math training is in two places. It's in the operating budget. It's also in our Title II grants. We have a total of 30,000 in Title II grants that'll be coming to us next year. 5,000 of which is that learning walk math training. The other 12 of that is with the the operating budget. The total operating budget request is significantly lower, as you would expect, since we have this this other grant funding. We've lowered it. It's $19,000 this year. It's probably the lowest it's ever been. But there's a significant piece for the social emotional consulting support. We will have a consultant coming in, working with those related service teams, helping them with the challenges they're facing with the cases that we have, helping us with our academic pathways again. We have that in 3 locations in all 3 of these funding sources, as you can see. Moving on, literacy training. This is 5 days of support through Teachers College, Readers Writers Workshop. And we also have, it's time, since we've had significant turnover, administrative evaluation training. We've done a lot of this internally, because each year we're supposed to provide an orientation to our administrators, go over our training, and we do that in leadership team meetings. But from time to time, we will bring in an outside resource to help us with that training. And I think now, we've had, you think about new administrators coming in, we all need to calibrate and be on the same page. So we're anticipating that is an important training. And so I think that gives you, and also a sense of, where we're focusing the work for next year as well. But that does not preclude, we're able to, if is Lisa and her vision, evolves and is refined, we do have ways to, sort of adjust and potentially access other funding sources, whether it's, WEF or PTO, which could help us. So I'll pause there for questions. But this, yeah, you're right, Lisa. I'll put this in the.
Yeah, and it would be helpful. Take out the textbook renewal piece and just do it for consulting services. I think that's very helpful.
In the budget book?
It's the information we're getting to you by this afternoon. I want everyone to have the answer to the questions, and I think it augments some of the questions specifically about grants.
Yeah.
Versus operating.
And I agree that I don't think the textbook renewals have to go in there, because they're a critical piece. If people want the detail, that's fine. But
yeah, I think just the consulting services, because I'm going through all of our answers and we have different documents, different charts we made to respond to your questions specifically about reoccurring grants, non-reoccurring, and all that. And that's helpful because it breaks it down a little bit more.
These bottom lines, though, are already in the the figures. Okay.
Correct.
Yeah. We just don't want to be bringing anything new to the budget book now. Bernie, anything on this?
No, it looks good.
Yeah.
Is this our final item?
Well, I think one of the it's our final item. Other curriculum issues. One of the things that just a quick heads up, we are scheduled to have an early release on January 27th. Again, another professional learning opportunity that we've built in, much like that December day. However, due to those snow days, we have
January 7th?
January 27th.
Oh, 27th.
But we also have now an exam on that day at the high school. And so generally after exams, our teachers at the high school will be grading and doing makeups and things like that. So what we're going to do is we're going to push that date out we need that date. The high school has significant work they need to be doing. We're going to let families know that date will be a full day for the whole system. Obviously high school will have exams, and that's a different schedule, but that we're going to move that date to the day before that February short break that we have in February.
Yeah.
I believe it's the 6th June. Is it the 16th? Is that Wednesday that we would do the early release? So we would do the early release then, so that our teachers can all work on what we need them to do. So we'll communicate with the community and give families enough heads up on that. They probably appreciate having the early release on that Wednesday. But that's all I had. You do have minutes to approve.
Yep.
I also have something exciting that I wanted to update you on.
Please.
That Ken knows I was involved in the call yesterday, but I didn't get a chance. It kind of happened. So many of you know that I have a connection with a school in Guatemala, Balanja English Academy, and the International Rotary, as well as the Westport Rotary, has given us grants to develop a partnership with professional development with the teachers in Guatemala and our teachers. Our teachers are volunteers in this capacity, and basically it's to build the professional capacity of the Guatemalan teachers. There are 10 of them, to be able to benefit from, and we benefit also. It's a partnership to benefit from our pedagogy, how to teach both in remote learning and not remote learning. Anyway, it started yesterday, which is really very exciting. It's all after school hours. It's not during the day. And these are teacher volunteers that the grant does fund their participation. And so we are doing remote classes 1 to 2 times a week with these teachers in the afternoons. A variety of volunteers are helping with this.
That's
We
fantastic.
have our second class. If you look on Instagram, we have our second class Thursday afternoon at 4:00, where grade 1 teacher Brooke Quinn and Matt Paler will talk to the teachers about strategies that they use and vocabulary specifically in English, because they're promoting the use of English in the school, to how to set norms and class expectations in a remote learning setting in English. Their school starts on Martin Luther King Day. It'll go through November. And there's also funding to bring the teachers here once COVID calms down, and for volunteer teachers to go there in the summer. So it started. It's really exciting. We hope to get our National Honor Society kids involved, because the teachers' English is not as good as we would hope.
Right.
And so we're going to look for kid volunteers that can literally Zoom with these people once a week to just practice their English. But to see yesterday Mercedes Fernandez translating, Nick Torres, who was talking to them about professional learning communities, and Christine Sincata asking them, like, how can we help you? And to see these teachers like, we really need help with this. Can you help us? And then the translation. It was, brought a tear to my eye. So it's very exciting.
It would really, I'm telling you, Lisa, if you can talk to Dan DeVito about recording one of those sessions.
Sure, we can do that.
And doing a little edit as part of your podcast, or and sending out a little video of some cute interaction and some real great.
Maybe that's a good idea. I actually could probably interview Logan Sierra, who's in charge of the school there in Guatemala. He speaks fluent English, and then do that piece along with a couple people participating, because it really is exciting. And I don't know where it's going to end up. I mean, but it's
you should be documenting some of this. This is really rich stuff, and can go a long way. I love it.
And it's great because everyone is so willing to be helpful and to share. I was talking to Brooke in the hallway before school started, and Miss Merrifield came up and was listening, and she's like, I got some materials that I think I could put in the folder, like about specifically with the mood meter. How do you feel? Red, rojo, all of that stuff. And so
that's awesome.
It's really
awesome. It's a case in point that if you ask teachers to volunteer, or ask anyone to volunteer for something that they don't enjoy, like everyone is going out and picking up trash. Everyone is going to do the vegetable gardens, which may be interesting to some, not to others, but it's clear that you've got all these volunteers who love their craft of teaching. They love it. And they want to share it.
And even if you just say, what, I could give a half hour to talk to a person in English just one time, we can make it happen. And it means so much to them. We have all of Penny McNulty left a whole classroom of some used books. And we talked about what to do with them. And the decision was made that a portion of them would be sent to the school. So when our kids go down in February and April, because the builders' kids are going back to that area, they're going to be taking Penny's books down with them in their suitcases, which I think is a beautiful thing, because they need help. So I won't belabor it, because I could talk about it all day.
Great. I've reviewed the minutes. Anyone have any changes or anything to the minutes? All good?
All good.
Move to approve the December
All good by me.
I'll say that again. Move to approve the December 21 minutes. Anyone can say so moved.
So moved.
Thank
Or
you.
move.
I don't think I need a second on that, do I, June? No. Okay.
Well, they both said so moved, so the second person was.
All right. All in favor is what I should say next time.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody. Our next meeting is on
Oh, June, it's February
February 9th.
9th.
February 9th. Okay. See you obviously well before then, and have a great cold day. Bundle up.
Thank you. See you tomorrow.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.